What's up? Welcome to the podcast, episode 128. Welcome to the public. This is a public verbal journal podcast episode. If you're like, what? You'll understand. And if you're like, oh, I understand, then soon you'll be like, what? So there will be a reversal there. Every third episode is public. Thank you to the members and the patrons for supporting this stuff and enjoying the previous episode and all other private episodes, I assume. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure if people enjoy it. Last episode was... I'm here to make amends. Okay, last episode was something I'm going to be making amends for today in a very meaningful way. It was the longest episode I've ever done. It was way too long. It was...
Error.
It was way too long. 2 hours and 14 minutes. I've never even broken 2 hours before. And I'm sorry that I did. And I promise it won't happen again. That was way too long. So this will be the short episode. That's the theme is brevity. Okay. They say brevity is the soul of wit. I say brevity is also important to a podcast. Might not roll off the tongue as well, but it is equally true. 2 hours is too long. You know what I mean? I get it. I understand, and I like I said, I apologize. And I already apologized. I think, right? Did I already say I'm sorry? Yeah. Yeah. You had to deal with that. You had to deal with a longer episode, but you dealt with it really well. And so this episode now that we're going to do is going to be just very punchy and short. And I'm already taking too long in the intro. I know. I can tell. Okay, so before we get into... I guess I'll just tell you what we're doing here. So I just have a brief update I'll say first. Then we'll have the horizontal integration segment where I talk about the main channel, What's Therapy. Then we will talk about the political assassination that took place this past week. And we will then delve into some other news briefly. This is not a news podcast. I've made that very clear. Then we have a 3-part research segment with some very interesting research coming out of the research department. And then we have an image segment and an audiovisual segment that have some good stuff in them. Follow-ups. We'll see what else. Mailbag, obviously. And so that's what we got going here. Okay. So cool. Thanks again for being here. And if you're bored, that's fine. You know what I mean? Me too. Okay. So first thing, this is just a little update. Because when I refer on this podcast to the person known as Elon Musk, I have made sure to remind people that he is the world's most hoarding wealth individual. Which is, I think, a common way to refer to it. Most people say, yeah, the world's most hoarding wealth individual. I think that's a common turn of phrase. Turns out, though, it is going to become a little bit more contentious in that regard, and I won't just say it without double checking in the future, because this week it became clear that the world's most hoarding wealth individual may be someone else. Now, it did become a little complicated, as we see he's closing in on the world's richest. And then so it turns out there was a change of hands of this title, world's most hoarding wealth individual, but then it changed hands again. So I wanted to just kind of put that on our agenda here, that we will have to double check anytime I refer to someone as the world's most hoarding wealth individual. We will have to check the most up to date numbers on that. So just something to be aware of. Money is kind of, pretty fake, certainly at the higher echelons of income, when you are just making money that is numerical and it is pure exchange value, as these billionaires make. Obviously, they're not making money for its use value. They're not selling products, so they can be used. They're selling money, essentially. Money, turning money into more money. So it does become very abstract and difficult to identify, who has more of this essentially imaginary quantity. But just wanted to kind of make that clear that we will have to keep an eye on that because it's not so set in stone. But hey, Elon, if you're feeling bad about losing the crown, when you do lose the crown, maybe just stand in front of the mirror and do Nazi salutes and stare yourself in the eyes and remind yourself that you have 15 kids, and maybe that'll make you feel better. I don't know. Okay, next up we got the horizontal integration segment. Oops, that is not the right thing. I just clicked this. That's fun. I don't make that mistake usually. This is the horizontal integration segment where I talk about the main channel, What's Therapy. You might have noticed I did a live stream. I came out, I looked you all in the eye, and I said, hello. Here is what I have to say about my previous video. So I followed up on the video. I talked about MAGA, people leaving MAGA. I talked about politics. I had a great time. Thank you all for coming out and hanging out, and that was a good time. I don't really have anything else to say, but you can watch it. It's on the main channel. It's under live. It's under live. And it's there. So you can just check that out if you want to hear me talk a while about, the video and stuff. And yeah, I'm really happy with how the video went. And I don't know. I don't really have much else to say. Check out the live stream if you didn't check it out yet, I guess. All right. Cool. So that's that, I guess. So now I want to talk about the huge thing that happened this past week, which is that a political commentator, Charlie Kirk, was murdered. Obviously, you all know this already. It's been huge news, and it's been something where a lot of people have given their perspective on it. I finished that live stream that I just referenced, I want to say half an hour or an hour before this happened, which frankly, I was happy that I wasn't live streaming because it was kind of a lot to process, and I was happy to be able to process it not live. It's really horrifying, and I guess my first thing that I want to say is that I'm really sorry that this is the world we live in, where people just get murdered. And then everyone has to watch it and grieve and be traumatized together. I feel so bad that this is our reality and that we all have to deal with this. It's extremely difficult. It's very traumatizing to watch these videos. I actually got away with not even seeing the video yet. Who knows? Maybe it'll pop up somewhere on the internet. But even just seeing an image was horrifying. I mean, I've watched Charlie Kirk in a lot of different debates and a lot of different clips, and to see someone that you're used to seeing, so animated and energetic, even just an image of him being shot was horrifying. Let alone, I'm so sorry for all the people who saw it firsthand, for all the people who saw it on the internet. It's traumatizing. I obviously, hated all his politics and thought he was wrong about everything, and I didn't respect his positions on anything, but it doesn't change that he didn't deserve to be shot, and it was just wrong for someone to go kill him. That's not the world we need. That's not the world that I want to live in, and that's not how we deal with political disagreement. I mean, especially when he's out there debating people. He's out there debating people. He's not ever going to change his mind, and but still he's putting himself out there to debate. And I mean, all the more reason that he doesn't deserve violence. But even if he was hiding in his house, he wouldn't deserve violence. It's not the world that we should be living in with this type of thing. And it's horrifying that it's so easy for someone to go out there and kill someone. It's horrifying. It's also horrifying that how frequent this stuff is, that while he's in critical condition or dying, there's also another shooting taking place in Denver, Colorado, where a teenager is taking a gun and going completely berserk and shooting his classmates. That teenager in Denver was a white supremacist or whatever. He's a teenager inspired by white supremacism, Nazism, online, all this crazy shit he was reading, desperate kid, whatever. He's a kid, and he takes a gun and he goes and shoots people. And it's horrifying to read about. And this is just our reality that, like, in one day we're processing a famous political commentator getting assassinated and then kids killing each other or shooting each other. One of them, I think, is in critical condition, and the shooter killed himself, which is still really sad. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's hard to, like, feel that empathy when the person's killing people, but, like, it's still really sad when these shootings end in suicide too. Like, that's really bad too. Like, it's bad when a teenager kills themselves. It's bad when anyone kills themselves. So, like, it should be harder for someone to kill themselves. It should be harder for someone to kill or shoot their peers. It should be harder for someone to go assassinate a political commentator they don't like. It should be very hard, and it's not hard. I don't know what the deal is with this guy who shot Charlie Kirk. I don't know. We'll get the full information soon enough. You know, indications point in various directions. He was clearly very online at the very least. But what bothers me most is just how easy it was for him to do what he did. I mean, that might have been, like, not even that much planning. That might have been, like, very, like, it's so easy for someone to go do these things. And we need to change that. We need to make it more difficult for people to commit horrifying acts of violence. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's so horrible. I feel so bad. It's so bad that this is just what we see and deal with, and this is our world. I mean, I think a lot of people, like, really showed their ass in how they responded to Charlie Kirk's murder. I think the rush to blaming a particular person or a particular political movement is extremely revealing and humiliating and pathetic to see. People rushing to try to blame this group or that group. Ask yourself why. I mean, because what I think is, like, the fact that we're all so confused about who to blame, I think that partly comes from the fact that it could be anyone. Sure, I mean, political violence might be more common in some groups than others, but it also could be anyone because it's so easy for this violence to happen. So it could be anyone. It could be far, far right people who thought Charlie Kirk wasn't far right enough. It could be far left people or a regular old Democrat. It could be anyone, because anyone can do this. Because in America, it's extremely easy to get a gun and to murder people. And that's horrible and not civilized. This is barbaric. It was also very clear that a lot of people were focused on not just pinning the blame, but also going along with that revenge. I talk about revenge a lot on this channel. You know my perspective. I think you have a limited moral development, limited ethical development if you rely on things like revenge for your concept of justice. I think it's a baby-brained perspective. You're against the murder that just happened, so you're threatening violence. If anyone's doing that, they're insane. They're deranged. They need to get help from a professional. You're not against violence if you're threatening violence in response to violence. This one seemingly very sadistic, sick person, Nancy Mace, who is a representative in the United States House of Representatives from South Carolina, tweeted this when Charlie Kirk was murdered. It's time to bring back the death penalty. You know, so same exact thing I talked about in my MAGA video about Trump. This brutalistic focus on the death penalty. Okay, this isn't, at the end of the day, someone being a fan of the death penalty is not in and of itself sadistic and sick. I do think it's pretty close, but I wouldn't be calling her that just for saying this. What's sadistic and sick is that this is when people thought maybe it was like far left person killing Kirk, or I think there was like all this misinformation about it being a trans person. Just like anything so that people don't have to reckon with like the fact that people like them do these acts. Regardless, so 2 days later when it becomes clear it's a white boy from Utah, same person on her official account says, "We know Charlie Kirk would have wanted us to pray for such an evil and lost individual like Tyler Robinson to find Jesus Christ. We will try to do the same." She follows it up saying, "We truly believe if he had sat down across from Charlie, the great debater, the man of faith and grace he was, Tyler wouldn't have pulled the trigger." So I don't hear her calling for the death penalty anymore. And I agree that we shouldn't be calling for the death penalty because the death penalty does not help prevent situations like this. But it really is a sick and disgusting thing to want to use violence essentially for, crystal knocked. Essentially it's like we want to just, whether it's towards Jews or whoever, like we want to use a crisis situation to exert more of our state authoritarian rule and violence. If you want people to die because someone died, you're not working towards a solution. And obviously people like Nancy Mace are sick, sadistic people who do not care at all about creating a safer world for people. Zero moral compass, zero conscience. To use violence to try to exert your will against people you don't like, and then as soon as you find out that the person who committed the act was the type of person that you actually do like, you now take a completely different approach. It's very transparent and revealing and sick and disgusting. And she should feel horrible about that. And she really showed her ass. It's just so hard to process this though. And then all these people who are responding by making databases of people who made fun of Charlie Kirk's death so they can try to track these people down and get them fired. Like normal, just like average people, not even famous political commentators, some of them. It's like there's some value to that because people shouldn't be advocating violence. So if someone's actually going out of their way and inciting violence, then yeah, they should be held accountable for that. But like, it becomes such a broad thing where people don't have to even be inciting violence or even making fun of Charlie Kirk at all, or even saying anything rude, just by responding not emphatically enough in support of Charlie Kirk. People are thinking that they supported his murder. Just because people don't come out and lionize Charlie Kirk as this so-called amazing person, now they're at risk of being seen as in favor of his murder. It's insane, this kind of black and white thinking. It's very hard to process Charlie Kirk being assassinated by gun violence for the simple reason that he's quoted saying that gun violence and like deaths by gun violence are something we need to accept. That's really that he was wrong about that. He was wrong about that. But it makes it hard to process his death by gun violence. You know the quote. I could pull it up, but like, it's so hard. Like, how do you make sense of that? And I feel so bad for fans of Charlie Kirk. It must be so hard for them to process. Like, how do they? He literally said that it was something that needs to be accepted. It's wild. And he was wrong. As I said, he was wrong. We do not have to accept gun deaths. And we do not have to accept Charlie Kirk's death as like necessary or worth it for the Second Amendment, because he was wrong about this stuff. So when he said 2 years ago,
now we must also be real. We must be honest with the population. Having an armed citizenry comes with a price. Wow. And that is part of liberty. Wow. Driving comes with a price. 50,000 people die on the road every year.
And it's horrible. It's horrible. We need to make that number go down. It's really so hard to watch this, knowing he was just taken off this planet. It's hard to see him and hear him talk. It's so painful. I hated this guy. And I don't want to see him talk after knowing he was just murdered, because I don't care how much I hated this guy. It's like It's so fucked up, this world we're living in. And he was wrong. We do not have to accept this as normal.
Live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal.
I am not showing this to imply that he deserved to be killed. He did not. And I am not showing this to make a joke out of him being killed. I am showing this because it is extremely mind-boggling and difficult to process. I cannot think of a situation where I've thought about a similar dynamic before. I'm sure there are analogous situations, but it's hard to think of something that I've experienced before like this, where someone advocates publicly for the thing that ultimately kills them. I mean, there probably are other examples of this, but he was wrong. And him being killed, it's not divine justice. It's just more people being killed by the policies that he was wrong to promote. And he was also wrong when he said that we shouldn't be empathetic. So not being empathetic towards him is not divine justice. It's just being wrong in the same way he was. You don't have to force yourself to feel a certain type of way. You don't have to force yourself to feel bad for X, Y, and Z if you don't. But like, it's okay if you do. I do feel bad. I feel bad for the people suffering because of this. Everyone. There's a lot of people suffering because these things happen, and we need to have them happen less. It's just so hard to process. How do you process that when he literally said, it's a prudent deal? It's not a prudent deal. I guess that's how I process it. I say he's wrong. And I do wonder, what if someone had visited him after he made that statement and said, I am predicting the future. I am 100% positive. And what if someone was able to convince him, you will be killed by gun violence? And not just tell him that, but convince him that. If he was convinced of that, would he have changed his mind? I don't know. My sense is that no. My sense is that he was a true believer, and even if he had definitive certainty that he would be killed by gun violence, he would not have changed his position. I that's my sense. Because he was a true believer, that he actually thought it was a net good for us to have armed citizenry. While I'm waiting on the net good, it seems like a net bad to me. It seems like a net bad. And the last thing I'll say about this is as part of people's reaction to it, I see people, right-wing people or whatever, apologists sort of saying like, oh, now it's our time to tell people not to, like, people were too harsh in their rhetoric about Charlie Kirk, and that's inspiring to the shooter. So it's actually the fault of people who would speak negatively about Charlie Kirk in an excessively negative way, that they bear some responsibility, as if it's inciting violence to call him a Nazi. And so now you have all these people on the right being like, oh, it's wrong to say Nazi. You're not allowed to call anyone a Nazi anymore. No, sorry, but you are. That doesn't go away. That doesn't go away. I understand that people are not always literally a Nazi. But when people push certain policies, you have to accept that some people will casually use terms like Nazi. Just like people casually use terms like communist. Guess what? A lot of people think it's okay to kill communists. So would you think that a Republican calling a left-wing commentator a communist bears responsibility for someone then killing them because they think communists deserve to die? No. The fault is the person thinking communists deserve to die, or if anyone's actually inciting violence. But it is not wrong or off limits to casually use words like Nazi. You're allowed to use that. It doesn't change just because someone killed someone. The definition of inciting violence does not change. Calling someone a Nazi is not inciting violence. That is free speech. And I think Charlie Kirk would support people's right to use those terms. I don't know. But I would assume, because he was a big free speech guy, You're allowed to call people Nazi. That doesn't go away. You see all these people trying to tone police. Oh, shouldn't have been calling him a Nazi. As if that's the problem. Not that someone can just go get a gun easily and snipe from 200 yards or whatever. No, I think the problem is that it's incredibly easy to murder people, actually. I think that's the problem. People are going to be throwing around words like Nazi and communist. We're not going to change that. And it's not useful to use violence to try to limit people's rights to communicate how they want to. The Nazis were not always... There was a long, slow progression to when they started gassing people in gas chambers. There's a long build-up, and the ideology of National Socialism and fascism has a lot in common with the MAGA ideology. I'm not here to write an essay or write a book on it, but like people are allowed to use the word Nazi, just like they're allowed to use the word communist to call frickin' AOC a communist. Yeah, you're allowed to use these words. Violence doesn't change the allowability of using these words. So it's just very clear people really showing their ass in how they respond to a crisis like this. And what they choose to try to, what ground they choose to try to gain in their own disgusting, aims. I don't know. If I lost the metaphor there. All right. Well, one thing we do here is we look at news that is good-ish. We try to look at news that is good-ish. I think it's important, even though we're not a news podcast. So after some more heavy stuff that we just talked about, let's look at some good-ish news. And we're going to go through this quickly, okay? Argentina President Milei suffers crushing defeat in Buenos Aires provincial election. Tesla market share in U.S. drops to lowest since 2017 as competition heats up. Appeals court upholds E. Jean Carroll's $83.3 million defamation judgment against President Trump. This is the woman who was found in court to be someone that Donald Trump sexually abused and then defamed. So, yeah. Okay, I'm getting too much. We try to just stick to the headlines, but you can look into this stuff yourself. Image of capitalism slips to 54%. Perceptions of socialism remain steady. All right, well, they'll go up. Oops, people are realizing that the free market doesn't love them. Another U.S. doctors group breaks with federal policy, recommends COVID-19 vaccines for all adults because apparently they've saved 1.4 million lives in the U.S. alone, according to stuff we talked about last week, which is actually available on the Clips channel. Let me just quick ad for the Clips channel. Go check it out. And unfortunately, all the videos get pushed to people who completely disagree with what I talk about. So please try to help balance that out. Spain bans Israel-bound weapons ships and planes over the genocide in Gaza that Israel is committing. And apparently this ban could hinder Israel's arms imports and its overall foreign trade. I sure hope so. Actors and directors pledge not to work with Israeli film groups implicated in genocide. So this is such a big deal that even Paramount came out and said, but we really like genocide. Something like that. But no, this is fantastic that people are taking a stand. Georgia judge tosses landmark racketeering charges against Cop City protesters. So they tried and they failed to punish protesters excessively. Musicians keep leaving Spotify in protest of CEO's defense investments and I believe Zionism. Oh, Shoo. They're good. Oh, Deerhoof is good. Cool. Okay. California limits on addictive social media feeds for children largely upheld. Look, I know there are issues with how some of these states do things, and I'm not going to pretend I've read all of the ins and outs of it, but we do need to view the way kids are using technology as a public health issue. Wow, that's a really beautiful photograph. Wow, how did that photograph come together? Were they like a little girl, go outside in the beautiful sunset and look at your phone. All right, maybe she's taking a photo of the sunset. Okay, and they're like, look at this teenager on her phone, or this little girl on her phone. And she's just taking a photo of the sunset. Okay, I don't know. I wasn't there. Okay. Judge blocks Justice Department's transgender care subpoena to Boston Children's Hospital. That's a huge deal because the government is trying to invade our privacy and try to get information they should not be privy to. And as a therapist myself, it would be a really big problem if the government subpoenaed me. I would have to choose whether to basically defy their legal order or not. And it would be, I would obviously defy it and say, throw me in jail. No big deal. I'm not working with autocracy against my clients. EU Commission chief to propose new measures targeting the Zionist ethno-state of Israel. Nepali rapper turned mayor is young people's favorite in political crisis. I just saved this because I was like, a rapper turned mayor? As if that could happen. What is that? Next thing you're going to tell me that's going to happen in New York City or something like that. We were looking at Zoran's rap, actually, last episode or the episode before. Downtown Panama City crosswalks chalked in rainbow colors in protest of state crackdown. Keep it up. Keep it up. Don't let them get rid of the art that even makes the streets safer. It's ridiculous. We like the art and we like the safety. Dutch Parliament votes to criminalize gay conversion therapy as UK waits for promised ban. So yeah, conversion therapy is another word for abuse. Judge issues nationwide block on Republican President Donald Trump's policy that cuts off Head Start for people in U.S. illegally. So yeah, in my opinion, if you're here, great photo of him, by the way, you should have access to education, and your kids should have access to education. So yeah. I know to a lot of people it's so obvious. Well, if you're undocumented, if you're here illegally, why should you get access to this? Because of ethics and being humane and living in a society. And also, it's just selfishly, it makes all of us like safer and better if the people around us are more educated and able to have their needs met, able to progress in their life. Britain's Mandelson fired as U.S. ambassador over Epstein links. Okay, you become extremely close friends with one convicted or charged sex trafficker and pedophile, and apparently you can't be ambassador to the U.S. anymore? What is this, cancel culture? Federal judge curbs just following orders force against journalists in Los Angeles. Avalanche of evidence shows that just following orders guys and little boys who are just following orders, okay? They're just following orders. They may have been violating the rights of reporters. Festival axes German orchestra over concerns about Israeli conductor. So this guy apparently sounds like a liberal Zionist from me reading the article. And then they're accused of naked anti-Semitism, even though there's nothing about him being Jewish. It's just like the comments he's made about Israel are sort of like not strong enough. And so they're like, I don't know, man, it seems like you might be okay with the genocide your country is committing. And then the festival axed him, and then the Belgian state is like, wait a second, we don't want Israel to be mad at us. Like, maybe let's still be friends with them. Anyways, yeah, I think if you're Israeli, you still have every right to function in public society. You just need to come out and make a public statement, be very vocal about the genocide your country is committing. Or else, if we don't enforce those types of standards, we are allowing genocide to take place with less accountability. Brazil's Bolsonaro convicted for criminal organization. Court majority decides this is big news. Bolsonaro was sentenced to more than 27 years in prison for this crazy coup attempt you got to read about. Thousands in Slovakia gather in renewed protest against pro-Russian policies of the prime minister. So I think Russia is in the wrong in what they're doing in Ukraine. California lawmakers pass a mask ban for law enforcement. So yeah, actually you don't get to hide your identity when you're working for the people. You disgusting fascists. Goons. Protesters arrived to defend roofers sought by immigration agents. This is just this one incident in New York, and I think it's fantastic. Protesters need to show up and defend their communities. Netherlands plans to ban imports from Israel's Jewish settlements, which are illegal. So yeah, they shouldn't be able to export anything anywhere. Tesla engineer says he's quitting over Elon Musk's leadership. Leadership is one way to put it. States are taking steps to ease access to COVID-19 vaccines as they await federal recommendations. Eurovision participants call to exclude Israel from song contest. Israeli players withdraw from the Spanish chess tournament after being told they couldn't compete under national flag. Good. If you want to compete under a flag that uses a symbol of my religion while you commit genocide, pull out. Don't play. If you want to play under the flag using the Star of David, making Jews everywhere more unsafe while you commit genocide, while your country commits genocide. Yeah, look, Israelis are not evil. They just have to come out against their country's war crimes, just like Americans do. So in Nepal, they've sort of, ever since the government killed 19 people or something, I think the protests actually more like 70 plus people ended up dying. But ever since these protests were treated in such a dehumanizing way by the government, people ramped up their protesting and they got what they wanted, which is an anti-corruption crusader named as leader, former Chief Justice. Imagine if we had someone like this. I don't know anything about her, but she's a former Chief Justice. She's an anti-corruption crusader. That's all we need. We just need someone like this. It's so possible. U.S. Catholic bishops decry a Republican President Donald Trump's immigration raids upending church life. Okay, well, you should have been telling your people not to vote for him, maybe, because obviously he was going to do this the whole time. UN overwhelmingly endorses two-state solution declaration that condemns Hamas. So, okay, yes, condemn Hamas, of course. Just like, please stop the genocide. Like, even if there were terrorists in every single building that Israel has demolished, it would not be justified for them to be demolishing all these buildings and killing people and displacing them, millions of them. They're now displacing Gaza City. They're just going to try to go as far as they can until someone puts a stop to it. We're just watching genocide take place. 6 more officers fired over handling of domestic violence fueled triple homicide in South Florida. Yeah, they've been investigating this because apparently this woman was going to the police for quite a while saying, my husband's going to kill me. And the police did nothing. Republican President Donald Trump's administration unlawfully directed mass worker terminations. This is the Office of Professional Management's unlawful directives. So, yeah, the government was breaking the law. Prosecutors in the Cop City case collapses as judge tosses RICO conspiracy charges. I think this is the same as the charges discussed in the earlier article. Might be different. U.S. judge extends block on deportations of Guatemala unaccompanied migrant children. Oh my God. Universities around the world cut ties with Zionist ethno-state of Israel's academia over Gaza war. Good. Dutch broadcaster says it will join Eurovision boycott over Israel. Good. And lastly, but not leastly, Zoran Mamdani says as mayor he would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he traveled to New York. What? The guy who's charged by the International Criminal Court with genocide and other war crimes? Wait, you're telling me like a mayor can arrest a head of state? Does that... But shouldn't heads of state just have impunity to do whatever they want and then go wherever they want? Yeah. We definitely need mayors who will stand up for international law. We need mayors, we need representatives, we need presidents, we need governors who will stand up for international law. Because if we don't have international law, we don't have law. So that's the good-ish news segment. So we look at good news, but it's, it's obviously ish. It's a mixed bag, even just talking about anything. All right, so next up we go into the research segment where I look at some research of the day and kind of keep you posted on research of the day, so to speak. Did I say research of the day twice? Can we take that again? No? Because it's the short episode? Am I making good time? I don't have time to talk to you? Okay. Sorry, my producer has been like, I think going through something. Can I talk about that? No? Okay, never mind. I'll let you know in the private episode. Can I talk about it a little? No? Okay. Just a little? Okay, Jesus Christ. Okay, staying on script. So research segment, so to speak. Whoa, did you hear that? We have never had that before. So this is a report called Pitches in Peril by an organization, Football for Future. How climate change is threatening football from World Cup stadiums to grassroots pitches. And apparently they have some sort of sound effect. Look at that. That's amazing. This is unbelievable. We've never had anything this amazing during the research segment. Okay. So executive summary is... Oh, hold on. Can we zoom in, though? How do I zoom in? Okay, there we go. Okay, executive summary. So, audience scope, what needs to happen in the stadiums, climate, grassroots climate risk, player advocacy, content's coming. I feel like this makes it a little bit hard to... So usually the executive summary kind of explains everything, but I'm actually getting kind of distracted by the sound effect. Okay, here we go. The 2026 FIFA Men's World Cup is set to unfold against a backdrop of an escalating climate crisis. Host stadiums across the U.S., Canada, and Mexico are already facing mounting threats from dangerous heat in Miami, escalating drought in Mexico City, intensifying storms in Texas and Florida. Player health is increasingly at risk, and grassroots pitches where every player takes their first steps are even more vulnerable. I feel like the executive summary is supposed to have a little bit more information. As an executive, I feel like I didn't get the full summary. Okay, here, hold on. This study makes one thing clear. Football is under threat. Extreme heat, flooding, drought, and wildfires already reducing pitch playability at both elite and grassroots levels. Declining youth participation, not future risks that are unfolding now. This could be the last World Cup of its kind in this region. Without significant adaptation, it's unlikely that future tournaments in North America will follow the same model. By the time the tournament returns to the U.S., Canada, or Mexico, climate risks may demand a very different approach to when, where, and how matches are played. These are not distant hypotheticals. They are foreseeable developments based on current climate trajectories. Yeah. So here we go. Okay, key findings. I'm an executive. This is what I like to look at. Okay. 14 of 16 World Cup stadiums in 2025 already exceed safe play thresholds for at least 3 major climate hazards, including extreme heat, unplayable rainfall, and flooding. Risks obviously intensify at every venue by 2050. By 2050, nearly 90% of stadiums, 14 of 16, are projected to face extreme heat conditions unsafe without adaptation, and 11 stadiums will experience unplayable heat, where matches cannot be safely staged. Miami, Houston, Monterrey, and Dallas top the list with the most climate vulnerable stadiums, each facing 100 to 160 days of unplayable heat by 2050. Okay. So this is bad, and it's something that we should do something about, because this is just looking at football, but obviously this is happening to all kinds of different industries and areas of work. All right, next up on the I almost said the climate segment, the research segment, but it is climate themed. Paying for climate chaos, U.S. federal subsidies to fossil fuel production. So let's get that executive summary. I love the executive summary. It makes me feel like a real executive, which I've always wanted to be. And as a social worker, I'm not able to really scratch that itch. For upcoming years, it is reasonable to estimate that the U.S. federal government will subsidize the production of oil, gas, and coal by at least $34.8 billion U.S. dollars per year. This is the subsidies, new and pre-existing subsidies. This is a lot of subsidies for non-renewable energy that is destroying our planet and making it unlivable for ourselves and our children and future children. Okay. So Congress has repeatedly chosen to shower oil, gas, and coal companies with the new subsidies, including this bill that they passed this year, gifted the fossil fuel industry more than $40 billion in new subsidies over the coming decade. So this is why they all support Trump. I mean, they'll support whoever will give them this stuff. These are the rich dudes who, actually put all their money into these campaigns and kind of like control our world. And they're the ones we need to steal the world back from and get a democracy. Subsidies under Section 45Q of the tax code alone could cost tens to hundreds of billions of dollars over the... So we are paying this. We're gifting them subsidies, meaning that is money that you and I are paying out of our tax dollars. It lowers the cost of fossil fuel production, shifting the risk of fossil fuel investments onto taxpayers, raising the prices received by producers or lowering the cost to consumers for any fossil fuel products. So that's you and I paying for it. We're paying so that they can destroy our planet. It's really not okay. It's really not okay at all, actually. Next up on the research segment, the UK report on Palestine Action. So Palestine Action is an organization trying to rally support for the people of Palestine who have been decimated and displaced and murdered by the Zionist ethno state of Israel in support, with support by the UK and the US and several other countries going against a global consensus. But this interior report from a few months ago from the UK actually says that this group that they've designated as a terrorist organization, Palestine Action, they've designated as a terrorist organization and arrested like over 1,000 people in the UK. They say the majority of the group's activity would not be classified as terrorism. So, kind of seems like maybe we should not just call things terrorism, just so that we can take away people's rights. So now we move on swiftly to the image segment, okay? I know it's a bit of a change, but, I think it's important to look at images, okay? So let's look at images a little bit. Let's kind of get acquainted with some images here. We're trying to keep this short. This is fun. We got a chessboard surrounding Idaho River in a bizarre astronaut photo. Let's not read too much. We've been reading a lot. Let's just look at the image. So this is an actual image. Due to years of grid-based management systems, they actually have a chessboard sort of thing that the Earth looks like. So this is where we came up with the idea of chess. I think like a couple thousand years ago, people were hovering above the Idaho, the Idaho River, and we were looking down and we were like, that kind of looks like a game. What if we made a game based off of that? I think. Speaking of chess. I was thinking about these guys, and that's relevant to chess because their daddy was a chess player, actually, and he was always gone. I'm not even joking. I mean, that's part of their origin story, is that their dad, who was a chess player who seemed quite neglectful of their mom, would just always be gone, and they thought he was so cool, and they never really seemed to have learned the reality of the situation. But he was a fairly well-known chess player. I didn't know who he was until Andrew Tate became famous for bragging about behavior that seems like illegal. But yeah, they got charges in the UK after this situation in Romania. But the reason, this is not the image we're looking at. The image we're looking at is instead a Twitter image. So I checked in on Andrew Tate's Twitter because I was watching a video about him and they talked about his bio. And I wanted to look up if it was still his bio. And it is. His bio is unmatched perspicacity coupled with sheer indefatigability makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor. I know it's not a great image for the image segment because it really is text that we're looking at right now, but I just had to pull it up. That is really funny to me. Because those words like perspicacity and indefatigability are not really common words that you ever hear anyone say. And it would probably be seen as kind of nerdy to even be saying it. But he's sort of doing like a dumb guy's smart guy thing where maybe some people would think he's smart because he's using those words. I mean, it's less about the intelligence and more about the projection of confidence, because that's what's so interesting is to me, this does not seem confident. No one who I think is confident presents themselves in this way. So it's also the not confident person. It's the not confident person's confident person, and the sort of person with bad vocab's person with good vocab. So I don't know. If you ever hear someone use the word perspicacity, you're going to be like, you didn't have to say that. Let alone indefatigability, let alone in the same sentence. Unmatched perspicacity coupled with sheer indefatigability makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor. That's almost poetic. You should write poetry. Unfortunately, you might have already noticed this if you have been skimming the page, but I actually pulled this up for a different reason, which is his pinned tweet is something I'm not even going to read out loud. but you can take a look at it. It's not pinned anymore, I can tell you that, but it was pinned. He really thought that was something he wanted to pin. I don't even know what to say. I mean, just regarding the point, I mean, I'm not going to refer to his racial slur that he used. I do think it's weird that he capitalized it. Is that like he's trying to be respectful? Just like regarding the thrust of his point, obviously people having mental health problems does not justify their violence. It is good to pay attention to, though, so we know kind of the many possible consequences of having a sick society. But anyways, he's going through a lot, Tate. Okay, so he's going through a lot. So yeah, don't hold it against him. He was having an emotional moment, and he pinned the tweet. He didn't just post it, but he pinned it. Okay, so anyways, lastly on the image segment, astronomers accidentally use rare double zoom technique to view black hole's corona in unprecedented detail. So this is unfathomably beautiful image. Just like, wow. You know what I mean? I'm going to pose for the thumbnail for this one. Wait, hold on. Which direction do I look? Okay, that way. Hold on. Yeah. What? Okay, maybe we'll use that for the thumbnail. Can we do that? Can we use that for the thumbnail? What? It's always my responsibility to make the thumbnail? I don't even have to talk about it? Sure, yeah, no. I'll do it. What is this double zoom thing, though? We try not to read too much, but what is the... Double zoom, creating a stars acted like... Okay, the measurement was made possible by a rare cosmic alignment where a foreground galaxy roughly 4 billion light years from Earth and its stars acted like two stacked magnifying glasses, creating a double zoom that sharpened the view of the black hole's immediate surroundings. First time such a measurement has been made. Damn. Wow. That is amazing. An intervening galaxy bends and magnifies the light from the background quasar. Wow. Producing 4 distinct images shown in pink. Tiny flickers in these images allowed astronomers for the first time to directly measure the size of the black hole's superheated corona, revealing it to span roughly the size of our solar system. Wow. It's amazing that this is real. It's amazing that that's like a real thing that really exists. I think. All right, we're making good time. We're probably going to break an hour. Unfortunately, I was going to try to keep it under an hour, but let's see. Maybe I'll bang these audio-visual things out. We had an hour-long audio-visual segment last week where I looked at Dave Rubin and Russell Brand having this long conversation. It was super bizarre. So, yeah, check out the Patreon or the memberships if you want to listen to that. But this is going to be a shorter audio-visual segment. We can't always be, doing that. All right, so first up, this is a follow-up, okay, on something we talked about last week. Lamb, there was a rock, and the lamb was very possessive, and the lamb was not letting the cat get on the rock. Well, good news, and this is a 4-part series, so we're not even looking at all the parts, but good news is apparently just based on the title, things changed. So I want to follow up. This is a channel called Lee Walters. Thanks, Lee, for the beautiful footage. So I was really disturbed. Honestly, I've had a hard time sleeping this past week because I was like, why would the lamb not let the cat on the rock? It was really tough to watch, and it really said a lot about, I think, our society. But let's watch this because I really need, I need a positive. I need a win here. So let's see. Okay. Okay. I think it's the same rock. I can't tell. Okay, cat, take it slow. Okay, take it slow. Okay, I'm already worried. Come on. Work together. Work together. I think the cameraman is standing a little bit further back now, which might be helping. It might be helping to make the lamb think it doesn't have to be performing for the camera, okay? Just be yourself. Let the cat be there. There you go. Yeah, there's plenty of room for you. Yeah. Sit down. Yeah. Look at that. Easy. And you actually might like being there next to the cat. Wow, I really needed this. I was so worried. I thought they would never share the rock. Wow. I wonder if it's a different rock? Is that why the lamb is okay with it? Hold on. Hold on. Let's make sure it's the same rock. Or see. Yeah, that's the same rock, right? Yeah, that's gotta be the same rock. Okay. So 2 months ago. Okay, it took a month of getting used to it, and they were okay. Great. Maybe they just got used to each other. I don't know. That's such an awkward way to sit. Their knees bend the opposite direction. Or wait, no, that's the same direction that our knees bend. I don't know. It just looks weird. I wish I was on that rock. I would fit. I could easily fit on that rock with both of them. Except the lamb won't sit down. It's like, take a load off, dude. Yeah, the cat wants to play. Okay, great. Fantastic. I really needed that. That was huge. Next up on the audiovisual segment, this is a new type of deep sea snailfish. So anyways, let's check it out. That's not, the music they're playing is not actually underwater. In fact, I'm going to mute it because that's not real. I want to look at the real snailfish. Look at that thing. Holy fuck. I'm doing the interior monologue of the snailfish. Where am I, dude? How did I get here? Nah, that's probably not what it's thinking. It's probably just like, I wonder what the world is made of. You know, I wonder, why am I here? You know, are we here just to suffer? That's what the snailfish is thinking. So thank you, Mbari, Monterey Bay Aquarium. Yeah, let's give a freaking like to that. Great. And a little bit of a change of pace. New York Times went to a job fair for the just following orders people. The people who are like, I want to just follow orders. I never follow orders. I would love to follow some orders. So they went to this job fair and they were trying to figure out what makes these people want to join this agency that is known for removing people from their homes, communities, and workplaces. And so let's just check it out.
We're at a recruitment fair for ICE.
So when they say ICE, they're talking about the part of DHS that is like less, like it's like 20, 21, 22 years old, and it's just gotten more and more Gestapo-like. So they're talking about that agency where it's the masked guys, and they come into your community and they take people who, you know, go to your school, go to your workplace, you know, like, yeah, people you know and people who you know, and so on.
I want to talk to folks and see who wants to be a deportation officer and why.
I'm a college student, recently graduated.
Former flight attendant.
I did 8 years in the Marine Corps.
Okay, so a variety of backgrounds. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you're willing to follow orders and not ask questions.
Doors haven't even opened yet, and already there's a line of more than 100 people waiting to get in. ICE saw this event advertised on ICE's social media account. The benefits they're offering are pretty extensive. There's an up to $50,000 signing bonus.
Good, so they get people who are desperate for money and willing to do whatever it takes.
$60,000 in student debt reduction.
Right. So if you're ever wondering why they don't do things like student debt reduction in general or universal health care, it's so that they can offer those things to people who serve the interests of the state. And they're worried about how it affects the labor market if people have better access to meeting their needs in general.
Up to 25%
Needs such as education and healthcare.
overtime rate. The Trump administration is adding tens of billions of dollars to the budget and is trying to make immigration enforcement really the center of law enforcement in this country right now.
Yeah, and it's making all of us a lot safer, isn't it? It's really helping.
Yeah. This is the esports stadium in Arlington, Texas.
Oh, that's fitting that they're at an esports stadium for this made-up problem they're trying to solve.
It's usually a space for gamers. Today, ICE is hiring for a variety of different positions.
ICE is essentially the logical consequence of gaming. I'm sorry, I'm just kidding.
Line lines have been the longest for deportation officers. That has the lowest bar to entry.
Interesting. All you just need to do is be willing to follow orders.
College degree is not necessarily required, and ICE is trying to hire 10,000 deportation officers.
I wonder if you're allowed to not have daddy issues. Like, if you don't have daddy issues, but you have mommy issues, do they let you join? Because they figure that's good enough? Or does it have to be daddy issues? I wonder.
The signage behind me says, defend the homeland.
Defend the homeland. Huh. Why not just like America above all? Or work sets you free or something? I don't know.
What were the attractions of working for ICE?
I'm very patriotic.
You know.
Oh my God, we gotta watch that again.
Behind me says, defend the homeland. What were the attractions of working for ICE?
I'm very patriotic.
You know.
I'm very patriotic.
I'm very patriotic.
Julian Young, I'm very patriotic. Buddy, I got news for you. That's actually not a reason to join the Gestapo. There's a lot of different ways you could be patriotic.
You know, guarding America, guarding the homeland.
Guarding the homeland. Okay. She looks like she's been through a lot, and I'm sorry, Angela, that you've been through so much. Our homeland needs a lot of different things. We don't need more people to round up our community members, actually. That's not what's making this place better. Yeah. How many generations have you been here? Like, do they ask you that when you're there? Like, no, they don't care. They'll take people who are new. They don't even, you could be like, how long until we find out ICE is hiring undocumented people?
When I saw Uncle Sam pointing that finger, I just had it in my heart. And you're thinking, look at this guy. He's an immigrant. He wants to become a deportation officer. Doesn't make any sense to you. Makes 100% sense to me.
Well, I can make sense of it. It's not that surprising. I mean, you're desperate to fit in. You don't understand that you're, I don't know, maybe you don't, maybe I wonder, like, would this guy want to join the immigration enforcement in his country of birth? Or does he think something about America's immigration enforcement is like more just? And he thinks like, oh, I'm an immigrant in this country. It's a great country, so they must be. I mean, a lot of people who come in legally want to say, well, I support legal immigration, but not illegal. It does become more problematic when you see all the examples of the current administration canceling people's legal status and actually turning people into undocumented immigrants. But hey, man. Check back in a few years. Let us know if you're still smiling about all the orders you're just following.
An officer doesn't make any sense to you. Makes 100% sense to me.
Okay, what about your friends?
We're seeing a bit of the speed and scale that the Trump administration is trying to move at. They're moving people in and out assembly line style. They're offering drug testing on site.
Oh, that's nice. They offer drug testing on site.
They're even saying that you could walk out of here with a tentative offer letter to start a new job at ICE.
Of course. They don't want you to go home and think about it and talk about it with your friends and family.
I was able to get an offer today. I accepted, and then I went and did all my process, my fingerprinting and my drug testing.
It's just sad. People just, I mean, we do need the government to create jobs, and it's just that the jobs should be things that like actually contribute to public welfare.
Background check is next, and then of course training.
Of course, training. Of course, right? Of course. Of course. I mean, like, you know, de-escalation techniques. You know, how to like kill people. ICE killed someone in Illinois this week, by the way. He was apparently driving at them, like doing something wrong, but they shot and killed him. So like. More ICE people in our communities, flaring up more attention in our communities, more people dying in our communities. They shot him. They killed him. So he was doing something wrong, but he wouldn't have been doing that thing wrong if they weren't there enforcing draconian interpretations of the most sort of disgusting version of America.
There's a lot of...
But this is who we've always been. I mean, really, this is who we've always been. We always persecute immigrants whenever we feel like it and use their labor whenever we feel like it.
criticism of ICE and its tactics in enforcing immigration law. You can hear the protesters behind me shouting at applicants as they walk in, calling them Nazis and fascists. And
Yeah, I mean, look, are they literally Nazis and fascists? It's debatable. But they are willing to join an organization to be told what to do by an autocratic, authoritarian, racist administration that is not helping the public welfare.
even identifying them by name, they're looking up people's license plate numbers. So are you worried about being called
Well, I mean, maybe if they didn't wear masks and hide their identity while they're working for the people, maybe people wouldn't have to track down their identity.
a Nazi?
You know, I don't mind risking my freedom to safeguard yours.
Yeah, dude.
ICE has become...
Yeah, that sounded prepared. I don't mind. Like, what? The
Yours?
question was like,
Are you worried about being called a Nazi?
are you worried about being called a Nazi?
No, I don't mind risking my freedom to safeguard yours.
Yeah, dude, I understand if you prepared that statement, but it's irrelevant to the question you were just asked.
ICE has become kind of a really polarizing agency.
Is this a father and son? You get life together.
And it reflects the big divides within America.
Yeah, that's what we call a nervous smile. Those are two nervous smiles. They're pretty sure that what they're doing is okay. They're pretty sure. How about just like helping people get their needs met? Anyways, lastly on the audiovisual segment, we have the oldest organ plays for the first time after 800 years. I don't know if this is literally the first time it was played or like the same day or whatever, but this is the oldest organ in the world. It's a little quiet. Couldn't find a better clip. I feel like this is in Jerusalem, and yeah, I guess it's good that it wasn't in the other parts of Palestine, because then it would be destroyed by the Zionist ethno-state's bombs. All these people must know that they're miles away from genocide. I'm sorry, guys. I don't really know what else to say. I mean, like, yeah, I don't know what to say. I want to be having a good time, but like, honestly, like, things are pretty hard these days. So one new thing I want to do on this podcast is teasing what'll be on the next episode, and I'll be able to do this because I keep wanting to not have the episodes be so long, so I keep having things that will be on the next episode. So I actually want to look at Tom York's post about Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people, because they're going back on tour, Radiohead, and this got a lot of public attention because people said that Tom York's post was not great. And I wanted to read it on the podcast and analyze my perspective on it and whether I think he did a good job or he's a liberal Zionist or what he is. We might check in with The Onion, because I've been wanting to check in with The Onion. We got some audiovisual stuff, some very cool astronomy stuff, a dog playing the piano, very cool image segment, astronomy photos of the year, and some research about ant queens. So that'll be on the next episode, I guess. Or not. If you don't like it, it won't be. Okay, so a big thing we do here is we follow up on the previous episode and I correct any mistakes. This is not like in the beginning when I was apologizing for the video being so long. This stuff I don't need to apologize about. I just follow up on it. And that's the agreement we have still, right? Okay, I don't have to apologize for this stuff. Unless it's like, a mistake. Unless it's like a big mistake. Okay, first up... Okay, I got like over an hour into the pod app without making a mistake, but then I did sort of make one. So let's kind of look into that here. All right, we got... So we were talking about they found this guy who was like, I guess the one that Shakespeare might have written some stuff about or something. And okay.
Is it W or something?
So I was just like saying that I like Shakespeare's sonnets, and that there's this history of Shakespeare mentioning in his sonnets someone that people were like, is that a man or is that a woman or is that, what is that?
Himself? Is he writing to a man who's not himself? Because I think there's a few where he's like, what does he say? He does a short, it does just like a, is it W or something?
No, I was thinking of when he says will. I was thy will. And it's not clear if he's referring to another man named Will or himself named Will, or if he's just saying the word will. But this guy was named Henry. But yeah. If thy foul check thee that I come for near, if that I come to near, swear to thy blind foul soul that I was thy will, and will thy soul knows. If thy soul check thee that I come so near, swear to thy blind fowl that I was thy will, and will thy soul, and will thy soul know is admitted there. I'm not used to reading the sonnets written this way. I have like a version where they're updated. I fill it full with wills, and my will one in things of great receipt with ease we prove. Among a number one is reckoned none. Then in the number let me pass untold. Though in thy store's account I one must be, for nothing hold me so it please thee. I don't know. I actually don't know what this one's about. Anyways, that's what I was trying to think of, not W. Oh, they have it written right here. Make but my name thy love, and love that still, and then thou lovest me, for my name is Will. Okay, there's other ones where it's not clear that he's writing about himself. I don't know. Whatever. I was just trying to remember. Okay, and then we have a little bit later, follow-up. Such a fucking terrible segment. But then no one can call me out for things. Okay, anyways, I was like talking about like this podcast Dave Rubin does that I talk about a lot.
One or two orders of magnitude, I think, more famous than Sage Steele. Maybe not. Maybe they're at the same level. I think Dave's been in the game a bit longer. I could be wrong. I don't really know.
I wasn't sure if Dave was more famous than Sage Steele, and I said Dave's been in the game longer. Sage has actually been in the game a long time. She's like been... I mean, she's been like doing media for quite a long time. So I was wrong. I just didn't know anything about her history, to be honest. Then we have, see this integrity that I go back, and correct myself? That's integrity, I think, or neuroses. Okay, then we were talking about how Dave and Rubin will experience a lifetime of shame for misrepresenting a pandemic and being disrespectful to all the people who have died from a pandemic, and also lying about vaccination and being responsible for harm within their audience. They should feel deep shame about that. So I was talking about the vaccine, and they said
to want to do public health, it's an authoritarian cult to want to care about your neighbors, and if you want kids to get vaccinated, but why? Just so they don't infect their grandparents? Wow. Are you a totalitarian?
So I know that getting vaccinated doesn't make it so you can't transmit the virus, and there's been misinformation, and we were not sure at first, but I looked it up, and it does seem that vaccination was associated with a smaller reduction in transmission of the Delta variant than of the Alpha variant, and the effects of vaccination decreased over time. But there is actually a decrease in transmission from vaccination. So, yeah. So I mean, this is just one article. So in index patients who become infected with the Alpha variant, 2 vaccinations with these vaccines as compared to no vaccination were independently associated with reduced PCR positivity in contact. So people who they know are less likely to test positive if they are vaccinated than not. And it seems like the reductions in transmission, they thought it was probably related to viral load, indicative of viral load. So if you get vaccinated and you have a lower viral load, you have less likelihood of transmitting the virus. Again, it's not simple and it's not black and white, but also when I talk about kids, it's not just about them transmitting the virus. It's also like kids can be harmed by the virus too. So kids can die and be harmed by the virus too, and they have been. And I made a video about that on my main channel years ago. Yeah, kids can get sick, turns out. Also, regarding my second point here,
infect their grandparents. Wow. Are you a totalitarian? Oh my gosh. Wait, you want fewer deaths? You want 1.4? What did we say? How many Americans didn't die because of the vaccine? What did we say? 1.4 million?
No, we said
lives were saved by COVID-19 vaccines during their first year.
1.9 million in the United States.
1.9 million deaths in the United States prevented by COVID-19 vaccines.
So you can look at how they did this. It's based on estimates of how many more deaths than usual occurred during the time period. Using only reported COVID-19 deaths, the same model yielded 14.4 million deaths averted by vaccines worldwide. That's a lot of human beings who got to live a lot longer. So it seems like vaccines are really good, actually. Yeah. And lastly, on the follow-up segment,
and that public health is extremely important, and that the vaccines are safe and effective and saved a lot of lives. So they're liars or they're rubes or they're grifters or something. Who knows? But let's see more of their... I mean, this is really essential. Like the thing you have to understand about the Nazis and about totalitarian governments, but especially the Nazis, is actually some of the first groups that they targeted were sick people, from my understanding. And, you know...
Yeah, and I meant sick and disabled, and I talked about disabled people shortly after.
No, I don't know the exact timeline of every single motion, every single legislation passed, every single, order passed, and so on. But I know that some of the first groups targeted were sick people, people with disabilities. And that is it's
just an important thing to understand. And it's true. It's a big part of the beginning of the Nazis. They continued a program where they just required that people with disabilities be killed. They murdered people. They made doctors do it. The doctors went along with it. So this sort of ableism is fundamental to fascism. This sort of letting the vulnerable die is fundamental to fascism. So our horrible way of going through COVID, it doesn't mean we're Nazis, but it's part of that same playbook. And it's really important that we push back against that and we take care of people who need to be taken care of. That's part of being civilized. I do think euthanasia is a different situation than this, obviously, whether they called it euthanasia or not. Okay. Well, this is the podcast. We now do the mailbag. No one wrote in, but you can write into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. It's fine if you don't, but you can. And then on the private episode next week, I may finally do some improv again. But if you like what you see, go check out the rest of the episodes on this channel, on the Verbal Journal podcast. Check out the Clips channel, VJP Clips. Go watch the YouTube videos on the main channel. Let me know what you think. Comment, share this. We're getting out there. We're living it up. And hey, it wasn't short enough, but it was a step in the right direction. Next episode, we have all kinds of secret fun that we're going to be having. So become a member or patron if you got some dollars to spare. No worries if not. And I'll catch you on the other side. But I hope you're doing okay. And yeah, I guess that's it. I have to say bye, right? Yeah. They get confused if I don't say bye. No, I understand. Bye. This is a podcast or something.